Welcome to NovoEdTalks, where we reveal real-world strategies and expert insights from learning and development professionals. In every episode, we chat with practitioners, course designers, learning strategists, and business leads. We hear about their experiences in the learning industry and predictions for the profession and the trends that they're seeing. But before we get started, a little bit about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric, capability-building platform that combines social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. Through cohort-based experiences centered around human interaction, NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, Marriott International, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Now, let's meet our guest for today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEdTalks podcast, a space for training trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I am the producer of the NovoEdTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Teodora Diaz, who is the Senior Learning Solutions Consultant at Telus Digital. She started her career at Telus Digital 16 years ago as an agent taking calls, and since then has been a trainer and QA specialist, a QA manager for Bulgaria, a senior learning and development manager for Europe, and spent 1 year as a senior L&D manager at the Las Vegas, Nevada site. So all kinds of great experience that she's going to pull from in today's interview. Teodora, welcome, and thank you so much for joining the NovoEdTalks podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, why don't you start by just kind of introducing yourself a bit more and talking about your current role and maybe even, citing how some of your past roles have kind of got you to this space that you're in today.
Well, yeah, I can do that. Well, I started, as you mentioned, at Telus Digital like 16 years ago, I think it was. I was just in the university finishing my degree and I needed a job. So I didn't think of this as a permanent job or a career, as it turned out to be. But we had our first class with a trainer. I think she was from the Czech Republic. She flew in to train us. And from this very first class in the company, I fell in love with this job. And all I wanted to do is be a trainer of people. So I was really pushy about that. So they opened the role. I was so pushy, they opened the role for me, really. They were not planning to hire a trainer. So I was a trainer for that account for a while. Then I expanded to quality function within the same account. And then I took part in the creation of the learning and development team within our organization, the first one, and then the quality team as well. And then from there on, we became a global team with all our locations. So I was responsible for the European sites for learning only. And then I relocated for a year in Vegas to help the team over there. They were just forming their team. And then I've been a project manager for a while. I tried different things, but since I relocated to the office in Vegas, I wanted to try more and more things possible because I have been having in mind the role that I have today. I wanted to know about the business, to expand my knowledge on the business enough in the operation, in HR, in everything possible, so I can become a solutioner and help the business fix problems through learning.
That's awesome. And what a great career path that you've gotten to just kind of like really follow what you love and what you want to do and go that route. It's amazing. So who are some of your learners now, or maybe if you can either talk about like who these folks are that you're helping specifically, or even if you want to talk about the folks that, that you're helping, that they're helping, and what are, just talk a little bit about them and what maybe some of their biggest challenges are.
Well, things have changed. I've been in the field for 16 years. Things have changed significantly in what the businesses need and what the learners are. We are training today a completely different generation of people than we were training before. What we used to create before and what people liked before, these long, detailed, instructor-led trainings don't fly anymore. People want short, self-sufficient tools that they can learn on their own and just consult people and trainers if they have questions. I think from what I see and what I see companies also want is the time of 1 month training before you start a job. Those times are gone.
Yeah.
We are working mostly for speed to proficiency nowadays. We want to get the people ready to be good at their job as fast as possible. So all technology plays in that. All learning specialists, all trainers need to change their profile more or less. We are working on the design and development front quite a bit for every single thing. We're building hybrid learning today. Learning like the same training, the same class should be able to be instructor-led and also virtual, because after COVID, we became aware that suddenly situations change. So a lot of things going on. And with the AI, now we are facing again another game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about kind of how you're approaching some of those challenges, like with the need to just kind of adapt and really, for lack of a better phrase, meet learners where they're at. But how are you, like through your programs, how are you kind of approaching those? You talked a little bit about it, but did you want to expand upon that at all?
Before it was just a training, right? People go to a training. Now there are all those tools that play a crucial part in the learner's journey, from KB, from knowledge management systems. So now we say we have to build a really strong knowledge management system for this training to be successful. Before we didn't even have knowledge management systems, right? So now the trainings become way more about navigation to really good tools than teaching the people to store information in their head. So this is one of the approaches that we are using to reduce, to improve the speed to proficiency and to reduce the time in training, because learners nowadays are impatient to be in training. Those young people that we hire that are used to fast videos and fast tutorials of 2 minutes, they don't have the patience to learn any other way. So tools are key, strong knowledge management systems are key, and then the training becomes a navigation. And lately we have switched to simulations more than ever. We simulate experiences with people on the phone. We are also using AI to help with when we have clients that with tickets and with other things. We use AI to help our learners select the best choice. So now they no longer have to think and make up the best choice. Now they're more into selecting the best choice of action.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of with the, you talked about how, after COVID, of course, the rise of remote work and virtual collaboration. How has you've mentioned some of these tools that you're using, but how has your approach to learning and development adapted to ensure that employees are equipped with the right skills for this new kind of digital workplace that we live in?
Well, simulations, as I mentioned, are a really big part of it. And some of those simulations have a test element. So it is understandable that we want people to practice and for us to be able to evaluate this practice way more now that they're on their own at home, but also a very strong after learning support is crucial. We make sure that all our learners, they don't just leave the classroom and go straight to work, but they do have strong and all the time available channels of communications when they can ask a question and get support. This is one of the things that before we were all in the office, right? Together, you can just raise your hand and call somebody. Now the company is investing more into tools that can help with people to feel supported.
Absolutely. And how do you, kind of expanding upon that, how does your team identify and address like skills gaps within the organization? Like, do you use those kind of like after training follow-ups, or do you have other methods and processes you use?
To be completely honest with you, this changed also a lot in the past years. We are heavily counting on data to identify those gaps and on numbers. Like before in the past, we would count on feedback from trainers a lot. We would count of what people like and what people don't like now. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing, but it is how the business changes and the world changes. Now we are not asking so much if they like the training or not. That's not the focus that much anymore. Now we are looking at their performance data, and a lot of data really. For months back, we compare, we analyze the data, and this is how we identify gaps.
Absolutely. Could you expand upon that a little bit, like in terms of, what types of performance data you're looking at? Like, do you have any core KPIs that you measure for that?
We do have core KPIs. This is a super interesting topic for me. Thank you for asking. We do have core, like every single business that we support has its own KPIs, right? So we, from one side, we have the KPIs that are important to our clients and what our clients, companies that we partner with, want to see, and what is important for the account. But from another hand, we are using other KPIs that are for this line of business, internationally accepted KPIs with their own benchmarks. So we use, let's say, two different sets of KPIs to measure that. But yes, absolutely we do. And if we're talking about soft skills per se, then quality also as one of those KPIs plays a significant role. And this is a completely different topic, or maybe not so different, but the quality function also changed quite a bit. Now we are building quality frameworks in a completely different way, way more detailed, data-wise way that can help us identify patterns and help us see how often certain error occurs, when to which learners make this error, right? What is the tenure of these people? What is their background? We can now cross-reference all those things to be able to find the exact pain spot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm also a big fan of data and analyzing, different trends and patterns and things like that. So I think that's super fascinating that you're doing that with your programs. Could you share potentially a successful like case study or an example of an L&D initiative that really significantly impacted performance, whether it's you measured it with KPIs and could tell, or it was just like there was I don't know, we've had people share case studies that was just like, oh, you could just tell like it changed even like the environment or the tone or the feel of the environment for the company. Do you have something like that you could reference?
Yeah, I actually have a recent one that is very fresh in my mind right now. So we have a lot of those, because this is solidly what we do, right? So we have quite a few, but this one is one of our most successful ones, really, because it's completely. So we got contacted from within the company, from this team that was struggling with performance. They have been, a team for quite a while, for over a year, and they have never been able to reach their quality target for this whole time. And the target was high, right? But according to our evaluations and calculations, completely possible to be reached. So this is where we start, right? We first see if the goal is reachable. But they haven't, so they didn't know why, right? They had no idea why. So we did a full assessment. We assessed their new hard training, their nesting or support on the floor. I know different companies call it differently. We call it nesting. Their nesting period on the floor, their operations. We took data 6 months back, for their KPIs. So we did full analysis of all of that, and we suggested to them several things, right? The first and foremost, we improve their knowledge base. a lot. We added categorization, better search functions, all those things that make a knowledge base functioning and helping people. We also changed. We didn't do a full redesign of their new hard training, but we added some modules to their new hard training, changed others, removed some that are not really oriented to the goal, because for the amount of training a person gets, they can only remember so much, right? So we don't want them to learn unnecessary things. And then we changed the framework of how they support people on the floor. So they normally were supported by more senior people on their same role supporting them, but nobody taught these people how to support somebody. So we trained them into supporting better these new team members. So we taught them how to coach, how to mentor, how to do side-by-sides with them, how to provide them feedback, how to build their action plans, how often, how to keep data. And then we assigned to every new person, after the class, to every new person, we assigned their own dedicated, more senior person on the job that has already been through this learning to support them for 1 week, all day long, every day. Do the work together. And for this, then we did a pilot of one class, and we managed to achieve something that they weren't able to achieve ever. We managed to achieve it during training. They were not in production yet when they achieved their quality targets.
That's awesome. And what a great case study. So thorough, to like know and do that kind of analysis at the beginning, I think is so important. And sometimes people skip that or rush through that because they're just like, okay, we know this is a problem, we have to like fix it. But like to take the time to really do that type of analysis, I think obviously proves in this example, you get a much better result to do that. So that's a great example.
I want to say something important here. Learning cannot solve, besides of what people think, learning cannot solve all business problems. So when we go into an account, this is partially why we do all this investigation. Sometimes we do focus groups with people. We talk about their problems, because very often the business would ask us to go and fix something. And they would say, hey, do a new hire class, right? Our new hire training is not good, and that's why we have this problem. And it's not like we don't believe them, but it's always better to double check, because we are the experts in learning, and we will know if that is the actual reason why the results are not good. And with this case study that I gave you as an example, it's just that we came, we saw, we analyzed, and we said, yes, learning can really help here.
Yeah.
And it's always exciting, right? Because when it cannot, then it's other problems that are not so much fun to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. What you've talked a little bit about some of the tech you use, but what role does technology play in your L&D programs? Like, are there specific tools or platforms that you all leverage that have really helped improve your programs?
Yeah, well, this is becoming more and more involved in our life. Before we used to have trainers in our organization. Now we don't have trainers that much. We have instructional designers and people who can create content. So we use the normal things: Articulate 360, Storyline, normal stuff. We have our own in-house built KB management platform, knowledge management platform. We also work with other knowledge management platforms that are available depending on the different clients and what they really want to do. But this is where technology plays a huge part. We count heavily on instructional design nowadays. It's not a PowerPoint anymore. And an instructor that is really good entertainer and really good knowing their product and what they do. Now everything is how you present it to these audiences, because as I mentioned, audience changed.
Yeah.
They're now all about presentation. Nobody's going to listen to me for 8 hours anymore.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's like the attention span of everyone. It's like, how do you get people to consume the main part of it and actually have it be impactful? I feel like only going to get even harder with the rapid pace of the world evolving and all the different tech that can be used now and everything. It's definitely a challenge.
All the trainings themselves, doesn't matter if it's soft skills training, communication trainings, or other type, the trainings themselves nowadays, when we design them, when we create them, they follow completely different set of requirements. They need to be really dynamic. You need to change a lot the delivery method within the presentation. You have to give them gamification. They need to play games. They need to collect points. There need to be simulated experiences. There need to be a lot of practice. There need to be navigation. People expect you, because people nowadays are so used to Google everything and to be able to find information everywhere, that they're expecting this in their job. They don't feel safe, and they don't feel that this is a good environment if they cannot write somewhere what they need to be able to do their job, or what they don't know. This is where the knowledge management systems come in place, self-help platforms, internal websites. Now we have Google sites for almost every team in our company.
Yeah.
You can go to the HR site and Google what you need to know. You don't have to talk to an HR representative necessarily.
Yeah, that's so true. And such a, how we just have learned to operate now as a society. Like, we are just like, okay, I can figure this out first before I'm going to call someone. That's what we do. So that's awesome that you guys have built that into
With learning, it's exactly the same thing. They want to write it somewhere. Like, you give them a quiz. We give them quizzes, right? Everybody who has classes gives quizzes. They need to be able to look for the information somewhere. It's a mistake to expect people to store information in their heads.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking forward, we've kind of talked about some trends here, but thinking forward, about the industry in general, and just kind of taking a general look at everything, how do you think programs have rapidly evolved over the past 5 years up to kind of like where we are right now?
The big takeaways, I kind of mentioned this already, but the big takeaways go around the fact that things can change from today to tomorrow. And we cannot always anticipate what the change is going to be. And we need to have more than one option to address situations. That's why nowadays, when we say learning and we say training, we build, as I said, we build hybrids. Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Every single piece of learning that we build needs to be both on its own self-sufficient or delivered by somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the biggest takeaway, I think, that you have to have more than one plan.
Yeah, definitely. For everything, it seems like. As things kind of continue to evolve, and you've talked about some of the things that you're working on, how do you see the future of learning and development? Obviously probably continuing with what you just said, but are there other big trends that you think will shape kind of the future and how we move forward?
Oh yes, AI. AI is going to, we are at the beginning of a huge change in learning with AI. It's still, I think still people are very cautious whether to use it or not, or how to implement it, but it is coming, and there is no stopping it. It is here. We use it little by little today, but this is going to represent a change in the methods of learning, and also in what the people in our field would need to know. Profiles will change. Profiles already started to change. As I mentioned, nobody needs just trainers anymore, or people that can speak well. Everybody is looking for people who can also create content, and also hybrid roles are becoming bigger and bigger. One person to do the job of 5 is becoming bigger. Now everybody in our field needs to catch up, needs to go through learning on our own and certifications, so we don't fall behind, because things change. Now we have the content creation, which was a big change. Now you want a trainer that can create content. You want a trainer that can be a system administrator for knowledge management systems, LMS. virtual learning, and other things, create those simulations, create those scenarios real time with audio, with everything. Now with AI coming, then we're going to talk about a completely different change. We're going to start automating a lot of processes. So then the content we'll have to create, the learning content we have to create, is going to be teaching people how to use these automations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is our last question, and always kind of my favorite one to ask, but especially given your experience, and I just feel like you've gotten this really great wide perspective from a lot of different roles that you've done. But as a fun send-off, what advice would you give to those just stepping into a leadership role?
Into a leadership role. Oh, I like this question. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's what I see very often, right, is when people reach certain level in their career or in their development, they become, and they get a title, right? The title is very important. So they get a title, they become a director or a vice president or something. They stop reading and they stop learning. So, and then suddenly one day they wake up, and this job that they knew so well and they were so good at, that caused their promotion, and they're not good at it anymore, and people know more than them. So the advice that I want to give to every single person that goes to work, but also in our industry, and especially in our industry, is that things change rapidly. Equip yourselves, read and learn daily. There are a lot of free sources that you can subscribe with your email, and they can send you articles and news and information, and a lot of magazines you can subscribe to that daily can give you an article. If you read a couple of articles a day, you will make sure that you are always relevant, and you won't wake up one day and everybody else is doing something completely different. So with the rapid change, this is what my only advice is. We gotta read and we gotta learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. What an amazing send off. Teodora, thank you so much for your time today and for all of your answers. We really appreciate having you here on the NovoEdTalks podcast.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode.